What is going on out there in the world of warships? Or should I better say world of submarines right now, because that's the focus of today's video. We're going to take a review of submarines. Actually, I should say this is a quasi-review, because we're reviewing the playtest of the Halloween mode and the Halloween submarines. Though I think it's still important to do that, and hopefully you all got a chance to play them, they were actually a lot of fun. The game mode was a lot of fun, it was quite enjoyable, and I'm really happy Wargaming put the time in to put these in the game. With that being said, that does bring up some very important questions. I think they did a little more work on these submarines than just a, hey, let's do something for Halloween mode. I suspect that this is definitely a test bed for submarines. I really do. There's just too many mechanics included in the Halloween mode with these submarines for just a one-off type of deal. So I'll get into that a little bit as well. This is really a 5,000 feet look at submarines, what I think about them, and how I think they fit into the scheme of things. So first and foremost, the game mode itself, the mission, is absolutely gorgeous. Wargaming always does a stunning job with these maps. If you recall Space Mode, that map was gorgeous, albeit it was very busy with a lot of stuff going on. This map is no different. Both above water and below water is rendered absolutely beautifully. And I love the little sea monsters that are floating around that you see, and no, your submarines can't get damaged by them, nor can you interact with them. They're just purely there for visual purposes. Now, the submarines themselves handle very much how a submarine would and could. And it's been funny looking at the forums, seeing some people say things such as, why can't I rotate my torpedoes? Why do they only fire straight forward? Well, there's a historical reason for that. That's all submarines in World War II could do. That's actually all submarines today can do. They don't have turret launchers. They don't have torpedo launchers that can swivel from side to side. Your ports for the torpedo tubes are in the front and sometimes in the rear. I know some submarines had rear launching torpedoes, not all of them did though. So you're limited where you can fire and how you can fire. So there is a historical basis for why you have to fire your torpedoes this way. Now, is that a game breaker? For some it might be. It does create a little bit of challenge though. So another thing that you'll notice when you play submarine mode is you can submerge, and there is a separate control for submerging. You've got separate controls for those. You can submerge in increments. You can stay relatively close to the surface, close to periscope mode, or you can dive deeper. However, you cannot fire your torpedoes deep down. You have to be close to or on the surface to actually fire your torpedoes. Another thing that you'll need to pay attention to is you only have a limited amount of air. And once again, these are actual submarine mechanics. Submarines cannot stay underwater forever. They must surface for air and to regenerate their batteries, which that might be part of the purpose for this. But the bottom line is you cannot stay underwater in perpetuity. You have to surface and you have to refill your air. Now, this posed a little bit of a problem for me. And I felt like I was on the surface or being forced to surface to recharge more than not. And I think part of the reason for this is at the time I didn't understand how this function worked. You actually have to sit on the surface for, I believe it's like 30 seconds to recharge your air fully. So you have to take note to that. You have to be careful with that, because if you're not careful, you wind up like me, constantly surfacing, constantly submerging, and back and forth. And it's not fun, especially when you're in a hot situation and you're forced to surface around 3 or 4 surface warships. Not good. Now, my concern about submarines in this game is unrealistic expectations. I worry that players are thinking they're going to be getting modern era submarines, which are, of course, nuclear powered for the most part, can stay underwater without the need to surface, and are a lot more agile and are a lot faster, whereas in World War II, submarines were not that. Submarines were very slow underwater, they were faster on the surface, they weren't that agile, they couldn't dive that deep, not like the 1,600 feet plus crush depth that most modern submarines have. They were stuck at just a few hundred feet. And if they went below that, things got really bad. So I am very worried about people's expectations of submarines. So it's good that submarines are coming to this game mode and players are going to be able to test them out here, because I think if there is eventually a final product for submarines, they're going to handle pretty much like they handle in this game. There might be some scant differences, but again, this is very much a test bed for how submarines are going to operate in game. And I think for the most part, they operate fairly decent. There are a couple tweaks here and there that I'd like to see, and a couple things that I don't like about them, but overall, I think Wargaming got the overall spirit of submarines down pat. And I think in the context of this Halloween game mode, they work very, very well. Now, does that translate into submarines working well in World of Warships? I don't know. There's a lot of other tweaks that are going to happen, both to the submarines and to the warships. Is every single warship going to get sonar capability? Is every single ship going to get depth charges? Are only destroyers going to get depth charges? So there's a lot that remains to be answered, and personally, I suspect, though this is just mere speculation, that we're probably at least 2 years away from submarines being implemented into the game if they actually do make their way into the game. And the only reason I say that is because we don't yet have the carrier rework, and it doesn't appear that's going to happen this year. I'm thinking realistically the carrier rework's probably going to be sometime around summer of 2019. And again, it's just speculation, mere speculation, but I'm just looking at where we're at in the process and how much we've seen and everything else. And hopefully Wargaming will come out at some point and say something regarding that. But carrier rework definitely has to happen first, and I think submarines are going to be much further down the line. At this point, I'm on the fence whether I want them or not, although this current Halloween game mode has not necessarily swayed me 100%, but it has helped me see that there is a little hope for them, and that there might be a place for them in World of Warships. I know a lot of people feel like I do. A lot are tepid on submarines, they're happy with the game how it is, and submarines being added might add a dimension we don't necessarily need, but seeing them in Halloween game mode does make me feel that they might be a little more at home than I once thought they would. I think they might actually fit in some way, shape, or form, provided the right balancing is in place, and they're in certain game modes only, or even if they are in the main game mode, as long as the balance aspect is there. Outside of that, the Halloween game mode, again, beautiful. Underwater, it's beautiful. Watching explosions from underwater is beautiful. I mean, it's just an absolutely gorgeous game mode that I think you all are really going to enjoy. Little tough, little hard, but div up with some buddies and get at it, and you'll have a good time. And this is the big test right here. This is what Wargaming is looking at to decide if submarines do make it into the game. Your feedback for this event is going to drive things a lot. So, make sure you get that feedback out there. Let Wargaming know what you think of it. Get to the forums. Write on the forums what you think about submarines. I'm sure they'll do some sort of survey at some point after it's over. Make sure you're active and vocal in that. Let yourself be heard. Put your thoughts on this video. Put your thoughts on every other community contributor's video regarding submarines, because Wargaming is watching. They're actively paying attention to it. And that's important. It's really important that we get these right if they do come to the game. Or if we don't want them, you voice your opinion so you're heard, and we make sure they aren't added to the game. I myself am 50-50 right now, though this has done a lot to help kind of clear the muddy waters as far as how submarines might work. So kudos to Wargaming for putting this game mode together. It's beautiful, it's fun, submarines are unique. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. Anyhow guys, thanks for watching. I will catch you all later. Zoop out.